What is up, guys? If you're new to this channel, make sure you check the link down below. It shows you an interactive map on all the places that I've made videos on so far. All you have to do is click on the link to the map, and then you can click on a pin which will take you to a link of said place. For this video, I'm going to be in Dixon, Illinois, which is halfway between the Quad Cities and Rockford along the Rock River, which is to my right. In this video, I'm going to be driving in mad circles around Dixon, Illinois, and I'll tell you more about it along the way. Well, let's get to it, shall we? After a long night of bar hopping and tearing up the streets of downtown Dixon, I woke up groggy with a hangover, passed out in the back of the Jeep at this local park on the west side of town. In fact, I don't even remember how I got here. Okay, yeah, just kidding, that didn't happen. I actually stayed the night at a hotel in Rockford and drove here while purposely timing things just right to start working once the sun rose so that I could make sure that I had enough time to get everywhere I needed to while the day lasted. Turned out that I was lucky, as you could tell it was a really nice sunrise. Nonetheless, if you enjoy this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video of an area near you. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos on other places like what you see here can be found in my Illinois playlist or in my USA Small Towns playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. Early on, European settlers first came to the area now known as Dixon in 1828. The name Dixon comes from an early settler named John Dixon who operated a ferry across the Rock River. In 1830, the post office in town called this place Dixon's Ferry. The town later was known as Fort Dixon, and then eventually the town was just called Dixon. Also, just like every other Illinois city and town, Abraham Lincoln came through Dixon once. What a shock! It was in 1832 when he was a soldier taking a part in the Black Hawk War. Before he practiced law and ran for president and all that fun stuff. There's a statue in town on the north side of the river just west of Galena Avenue that marks the spot where Fort Dixon originally stood. Unlike every other Illinois town though, Dixon residents couldn't care less about Abraham Lincoln. Actually, they probably do, but their pride and joy is more so centered around a different former US president, which is Ronald Reagan. Reagan grew up in Dixon after being born in the nearby tiny town of Tampico, and as this area was his early stomping grounds, the section of the Illinois tollway system that runs south of town along I-88 has been named as the Reagan Memorial Tollway. Most people know this, but in case you never paid attention in school, no worries because I'm here to save the day. Before Reagan was president from 1981 to 1989, he served in the military. Reagan also had a radio broadcasting career along with a Hollywood acting career. He was an FBI informant, and Reagan was also the governor of California from 1967 to 1975. Shortly, I'll be at Reagan's boyhood home, or the home that his family moved to from nearby Tampico when Reagan was 9 years old. The fancy building that you're about to see here is the Northwest Territory Historic Center, which is a museum that displays Dixon's early history along with plenty of things on Ronald Reagan and Abraham Lincoln too, of course, because it's Illinois, why not? The center's website, though, claims that Ronald Reagan loved his hometown. My response to that is, how are you going to speak for a grown man? Alright, just kidding, he probably did love his hometown. He returned home during his first term of presidency once. This was for his 73rd birthday in 1984, and the town threw him a parade and I'm sure he loved it. Nonetheless, I'm sure that the Northwest Territory Historic Center is a great place to visit if you're looking to learn more about Ronald Reagan. And only 3 blocks south of the museum is Ronald Reagan's boyhood home. It looks like just about every other home along this street and every other home in the city of Dixon. The home is a National Historic Site and is open to visitors from April to October. At least it is when there's not a pandemic going on. I passed through here several times in the video as there are only 2 bridges in town that go across the Rock River. On the right by the Dixon Arch is the old Lee County Courthouse. Not sure if there's a new one, but as I've learned in my video on Ottawa, Illinois, even though a building might say that it's the county courthouse, that, for whatever reason, doesn't always mean that it's the actual courthouse. I mean, who in their right minds would have thought that a building was a county courthouse when it says that it's the county courthouse on a sign right outside of it? Nonetheless, it looks like there are some other local government offices in the building right across the street from the old courthouse in the block before the arch.
That just goes to show you that you really shouldn't be making tour videos on places that you've never lived in or places that you've never been to before. Next time and for the rest of your videos, you need to get a local in the car with you to provide your commentary.
Yeah, okay, because asking random people from the street that you just met to get in your SUV doesn't make you look like a serial killer or anything. Speaking of serial killers, next I head towards the Dixon Correctional Center.
How dare you just stroll through downtown like that without saying anything about the beautiful buildings that you just passed?
Hold on, okay? I'll buy you a scratch and sniff and you can work on that, and I'll be back there before you know it. While we're on our way to the prison, guess what time it is, everyone? It's time to be judgmental. Dixon is just like darn near every other rural Illinois town of its size in the fact that it's seen continuous population decline since the era of World War II. Even though the Dixon City website claims that there are 16,000 people that reside in town, as of 2019, Dixon is actually estimated to be home to 15,100 residents, which is down from a 1960 peak population of 19,500. Lee County as a whole also saw a peak population in 1960, one of 38,700, while today the county is home to 34,000 residents. In Dixon, the median household income is $47,000 per year, and the poverty rate is 14.5%. 18% of adults 25 and older hold a bachelor's degree or higher, and the median value of owner-occupied housing units is $90,000. Niche.com ranks the public schools as a C+, and the crime rates are below average. and this is the Dixon Correctional Center located in the extreme northeast part of town. Don't want to end up there, guys. Or girls. Actually, wait, just guys, because it's a male prison. Anyway, the Dixon Correctional Center opened up as a medium-security male prison in 1983 and has a capacity of around 2,500 inmates. I'm sure the number of people at the prison changes constantly, but one thing that I've learned since making this channel is that the population of prisoners in a town is added to the total population of a town during every given U.S. census and the estimates in between. Since Dixon is estimated to be home to 15,000 people right before the 2020 numbers come out, there could possibly be 2,500 people in the prison, and that means that anywhere from 15 to 16% of Dixon's total population could be residing in that prison. I learned that from a commenter on one of my other videos on a different prison town in Illinois. Meanwhile, next I'll drive through other small parts on the north end of town, and then I'll be at Dixon High School.
I met you at my brother's. Your lines were like lightning, so bright and uncontrollable. Yeah, I could hardly fight it. You took me to your parents. We were joking in the street. Your eyes were like headlights crashing into me. Like a dirty way out, I'll disappear slowly, so I won't hear you say, you know I always loved you, but just not in that way. I never let you go, 'cause it's a long, long way to your mountain top. A long, long way to your mountain. I never let you go, 'cause it's a long, long way to your mountain top. A long, long way to your mountain.
Now for this, a notable event in the grand old town of Dixon occurred just recently. Now, this is some Ozark type of stuff right here, only there's no drug cartel pressuring and chasing anyone, just some filthy addiction by a greedy woman and a habit that built up over time. In November of 2012, a longtime treasurer of Dixon, Rita Crundwell, pled guilty to embezzling $53.7 million from the city of Dixon during her time as the treasurer for the city from 1983 to 2012. That's enough money to give each of Dixon's estimated 15,000 residents $3,580 each. It was believed that Crundwell embezzled the money for supporting her championship horse breeding hobby. She won 69 national championships with her horses, in which she owned 400 of them. She also owned 3 different ranches, a fancy RV that was worth over $2 million, a vintage Corvette, and a Florida vacation condo. It's almost like the Grinch who stole Christmas. Actually, just paint her face green, and she kind of looks like one. Alright, now moving on. Crundwell was sentenced to 19 years and 7 months on November 14, 2012, and is being held in Pekin, Illinois, just south of Peoria. It was discovered that in 1990, Crundwell opened up a secret bank account and named it the Reserve Sewer Capital Development Account. Not too far off with naming it sewer, as she was having some fun playing in some horse for 30 years. Somehow, she made that appear to be the city-owned account.
Nope.
On average, Crundwell was stealing $2.5 million from the city every year. She would often claim that the city's budget shortfalls were due to the state being late in paying its share of tax revenue, which is actually believable, as Illinois has more debt per capita than any other state in the country by far and away. Anyway, her greedy selfishness came at the cost of lowered funding for the parks, no raises for city employees, fewer equipment purchases for the police department, along with much lower funding for street maintenance. Crundwell was able to pull off what to this day is the largest municipal fraud in United States history, and she had complete control over the city's funds during that time, as audits rarely happen for small towns. She was able to keep that train running for nearly 30 years. If Crundwell would have been sentenced for the maximum amount of jail time for the crimes that she committed, she would have served for 20 years. Instead, once again, 19 years, 7 months. As it stands today, she'll be released from jail when she's 80 years old. As a part of her sentencing, the city of Dixon was able to auction off Crundwell's assets to help regain some of the $53.7 million that she stole. One last thing that I wanted to point out is that Dixon has lost a higher percentage of its peak population than all of the other nearby Illinois towns of its size. You have to wonder if that has to do with Crundwell putting a financial strain on the city, as less city services were provided during that time, which in return lowers the quality of life. In other news, on the right is Dixon High School, home of the Dukes and Duchesses. Among the most well-known alumni is, well, it's Ronald Reagan and nobody else. Just kidding, I guess there's a couple other people too. Current NBA G Leaguer Isaiah Roby is from here, but another notable alumni is Charles Rudolph Walgreen, who is the founder of Walgreens. And now for another unfortunate event for the city of Dixon. In May of 2018, a senior named Matthew Milby opened fire during the seniors' graduation rehearsal. Nobody was injured besides him, as an officer shot him and injured him, which should have happened, by the way, as Milby fired his gun at the officer and then tried to run. His mother mentioned how Milby had been sad for a while and was a victim of bullying at school, was beat up recently before the incident, and had some things stolen from him. She also acknowledged that Milby needed to suffer the consequences for his actions. Sounds like Milby was someone who hit a breaking point and just couldn't take it anymore. Today, Milby remains in a state-run mental health facility where he will be continuously evaluated, and to this day he has been ruled mentally unfit for trial as he faces 6 charges. Needless to say, Milby's father was recently sentenced in December of 2020 on charges for hiring a hitman to murder someone and for possession of methamphetamine. That brings up a separate issue that is a growing issue amongst the entire United States, and that is drug usage. I don't want to single out Dixon or Lee County, as the most recent and up-to-date data shows that Lee County has one of the lower rates of arrests for methamphetamine in the state of Illinois, which is a top 5 state in the country for drugs. Drugs have become highly present in the small towns that dot the map, particularly in the Midwest. You can say that they're high in Chicago too, but this map from 2017 shows that it's the rural counties throughout the state that see the highest rates. Now, Cook County probably has the highest number of total meth-related arrests in the state, but that doesn't mean that it has the highest rate. Cook County has 5 million people, whereas many of the counties in red have only about 20,000 or so people. In those counties, it's a higher percentage of the total population that abuses drugs. However, since this particular video is on Dixon, which is in Lee County, you can see that Lee County doesn't see the same meth-related problems as counties like Adams to the west, where Quincy is located. To the right is the now vacant Lincoln Elementary School. It's not very often that you come across abandoned schools in towns the size of Dixon, as you see them more so in the larger cities, whether they're growing or shrinking. It makes sense though when you think of how Dixon had nearly 20,000 residents in 1960, and today it's home to only 15,000 and continues to shrink. You also have to wonder how much of that was an effect of Crundwell stealing $53.7 million from the city for a time span of 29 years. Now, I'm 29 years old, by the way. That's a long freaking time. Lincoln Elementary School closed in 2014, just 2 years after the Grinch was caught. Man, what a shame. Hopefully for her heart can grow a couple of sizes while being put away in the cell. Here's another view of the old Lee County Courthouse. Up ahead is the Dixon Arch, or the Victory Arch, and it was built in May of 1919, or exactly 102 years ago from the time of uploading this video to YouTube. It was originally made of wood, but was reconstructed in 1924 to a better built structure. The road was widened in 1985 and the arch was rebuilt with fiberglass to what it is today. To the right is the Dixon Theater. It was constructed on the site of the former opera house in town, which was burned down by a fire. The theater was built with fireproof materials as a response to that, and it opened in 1922. This building that you see that's stretched out over the water is the Dixon Hydroelectric Facilities. And here is a statue of Ronald Reagan riding a horse. Ahead you'll see a building that's labeled as the Petunia Festival Headquarters. Dixon sometimes is referred to as the Petunia City, just another one of those quirky small town things. It seems like every town the size of Dixon throughout the Midwest labels themselves as the capital of whatever, or a city named after a flower, a farm animal, or something that the town manufactures. The Petunia Festival is an annual event in Dixon and is mostly held along the riverfront. There's a music festival included, and there's a carnival for the kids, which is cool, I guess. Just make sure to keep the kids and yourselves away from the creepy clowns. On this last stretch of road that I drive through, you can find several of the employers in town. One of them is Borg Warner, among others. Borg Warner is an auto parts supplier, and you also have the Dixon Airport. In this video, you learned about the recent events that have occurred in this town of Dixon, including the embezzlement scheme of $53.7 million by a woman named Rita Crundwell, and you've also learned about the high school shooting. You've also learned about the quality of life through the data that I shared about the town of Dixon. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already, as doing all of those things helps these videos destroy the monster that is the YouTube algorithm. Also, make sure to hit that notification bell so that you can be notified every time that I upload a new video of an area near you. If you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy checking out some of the featured playlists on this channel. Videos on other places like what you see here can be found in my Illinois playlist or in my USA Small Cities playlist. Last but not least, if you can't get enough of me on here, you can always go follow me on my other social media accounts, and those links are below. We'll see you next time. Peace!